All right, so this is meeting 9, and tonight we're going to be talking about design reviews. Um, I'll touch on a minute in the fact that this was not the original plan. All right. Oh yeah, enjoy the pictures courtesy of Peyton. They have nothing to do with the slides, but they are Peyton's creative genius. So an overview of the night. What is a design review? Design review schedule and types. Design review structure and procedure. PDR day schedule for us, who the reviewers are, and then what the template's going to be for this track. Yeah, so I mentioned this. So I did say we were going to cover additive manufacturing and other manufacturing methods today. In fact, last week I said, laid out the whole plan we're going to follow for the rest of the semester, and have literally within the first meeting of that broken from it. This is for multiple reasons, one of which is that I want you guys to have extra time to work on PDR and prepare for that. We only have this meeting and next meeting before you guys have the PDR, so I wanted to give you guys that time. Also, I have a lot of midterms and didn't really have a lot of time to put that together, so combination of factors, it's probably gonna end up for the best this way. But I will give you guys that content. We'll talk about it at the beginning of next semester in the spring. If you guys have any questions about it, feel free to let me or any of the mentors know, and we can for sure answer those. Cool. So what is a design review? So at its heart, design review is a time for you to present your design progress, and that is not right. And a time to present your design progress and plan to a panel of, okay, it was just a comma thing. It's fine. Basically, you're going to present your progress and your plans for the future to a panel of people who can evaluate, what you guys have done so far. So it gets other people's eyes on your work, make sure that you're on pace, and it's an opportunity to step back and kind of reflect on your work so far and where you're going. It's a really good reorienting kind of gate and allows you to make sure you're going the right path. So you can think about it as a useful exercise, not only for getting external feedback, but also internal feedback. So types. The first design review is the preliminary design review. That's the one we're talking about for you guys now. And it's known as a PDR. It's just an acronym for preliminary design review. It kind of introduces the team's approach, gives several concepts for each system. You identify a favorite of each set of concepts with some set of justification. Also, that usually includes some calculations, sketches, or CAD models. It's just like additional visuals and whatnot. Depends on the scope of the PDR. So in terms of you guys, and we'll go into this, what I'm expecting of you guys in a little bit, it's a little bit scaled back from what a traditional PDR would have. Normally at a PDR, you'd be expected to have kind of a full first pass CAD model, a bunch of calculations to justify the decisions you've made so far, some sets of prototypes and whatnot, and maybe be a little further down the process. A combination of the fact that you guys are still learning this stuff and the fact that COVID has removed our ability to do a lot of stuff in person that would be helpful for this has kind of led us to scale this back a little bit. But this is the rough idea of what you usually have at a PDR. And then the last thing is path forward. So other types of design reviews, CDR is the next one, usually critical design review. You present your final decisions that you've made, again, with justifications, calculations, probably a next revision or two of a CAD model. And at this point, once you've given and it's been accepted, a CDR, you're usually pretty locked into a lot of your decisions. You can still tweak stuff and things like that, but your major architecture is usually pretty locked in once the CDR has been approved. In terms of the next one, TRR or FRR, so final or flight readiness review or test readiness review, is usually that third one. That is usually the last review for at least internal to ARMU. It's before you fly. So you'll give that kind of right at the end. It's not just what you're gonna build; it's what you have built, and it's making sure that what you have built passes, safety checks, should work, that the calculations and tests vetting that you've done are valid, and basically a final check before you go out to the launch pad and launch this thing. We want to make sure that it is safe and all the assumptions you've made are valid. Different companies, organizations, and whatnot use a bunch of different acronyms for different design reviews. It's honestly rather insane that there's not a better standard for this. We internally tend to use PDR, CDR, FRR. One of the main drivers of that is the fact that the NASA competition that we've done for several years, not doing this year, but have done several years in the past, uses this system. And I think it works really well for us. But if you run into some other 3-letter acronym for some other design review in some organization that doesn't make theirs wrong, they just structure it a little bit differently. PDR Day Structure. So PDR, as I've mentioned before, will be December 9th at 8 p.m. You'll have the first 30 minutes of the meeting will be just giving you guys time to talk to your group. So we won't have a presentation at the beginning. It's just going to be, we'll jump right into our Discord rooms. After that, we're going to start 15-minute cycles of time for groups to present to the reviewers. This is going to be a Zoom meeting, so it's actually going to be inverse. Usually we start in the Zoom meeting and we break out into the Discord rooms. We're going to start in the Discord rooms, and then when it's your group's time, you're going to log into the call. One of your group members is going to screen share, and then you guys will give about 10-minute presentation, and then there'll be 5 minutes for questions. And we'll leave like a couple minutes of buffer time between the end of one group and the beginning of the next. I'm sure there'll be some time for you guys to pass between. And then the last rule with that is everyone has to talk at least some. And then the last 15 minutes, we'll do like a semester wrap up and looking ahead to the spring semester and discussing with you guys. And that will be the last meeting of the semester. So we have tonight, we have 2 weeks from tonight, and then we have 3 weeks from tonight, which is the 9th. Reviewers. So I've mentioned that a PDR has some panel of reviewers. If you're talking about at a company, usually it will be like the project leadership, as well as potentially some external people, so that there's a little bit less bias and there's people that can come in with fresh perspective. In terms of us, we're attempting to kind of use the spirit of that ideology, but it's also still people within AeroNU because those are the people you have the most access to. So reviewers will be me, be your mentor, or mentors. Yeah, looking at you guys, the Tide Pods, because Bryce and Peyton. We'll have Andy probably be one of the reviewers because Andy's been floating around to different groups. So he'll kind of have the perspective of someone that's been viewing a bunch of them. And then Adam, who you guys probably haven't met. But Adam is one of Bryce's roommates. He is someone in Peyton, Bryce, and my capstone group. Works in AeroNU a bunch, does DPF avionics. So Adam will be a good addition to that group. So. And the last thing I wanted to give you guys is a template. So I'm just going to buzz through this really quick. And I'll send this PowerPoint to you guys so you guys have it available to you so you can use it. A quick note is with this is that the current slide order is a suggestion. The current order is like a decent representation of what we're looking for, but if it makes sense for you to shuffle slides around or whatnot to make the presentation flow and make the most sense, please do so. It's not meant to be like a fixed template. It's just like an idea, a starting point, a place for you guys to get a sense of what we're looking for. So yeah, title slide, do like an overview table of contents slide. One slide on challenge details. It's like, I don't want you to spend most of your time on this because we obviously all do know the challenge. But because of the fact that this is supposed to give you guys practice with making design review documents and PDRs and things like that, I would like you guys to briefly summarize it just because it will be more complete that way. And it is something that in a real PDR you would definitely need to do. And you'd need to do it more than you're going to do it here. But don't take up the majority of your presentation telling me about the game that we made, because we do know. So just a brief, like 20 to 30 seconds on that. Then you guys should buzz through some initial concepts. So a visual on the design concept, be it a sketch, be it a CAD model, whatever. Include labels, color coding, or anything like that for something that's not clear what it is. Especially for the concepts that you don't end up moving forward very far with. I totally expect a sketch. That's totally fine. Just make it like understandable. I'm not asking for some piece of brilliant art. Sketches can be rough, but I should be able to get a decent idea of what's going on, especially with you guys explaining it. An explanation of the concept, you probably want relatively few words on the slide itself, just some key phrases, and definitely augment that with explanations through the presentation. Pros and cons can be useful here, although they're certainly not required. I'm going to get in a minute to the design matrix slide. So if you cover that pretty extensively in the design matrix, maybe you don't need to talk about it here, but it might be nice to just say, one of the reasons we do like this design is this, and one of the biggest drawbacks is this. So that's an option for you. You can use more than one slide per concept. So in this template, I only have one slide for concept A, one for B, one for C. And by the way, you're not locked to 3 concepts. That was just, however many concepts you have. I will say you should have at least 2, really probably 3, but definitely not just one. And just lost my train of thought. Yeah, so you can use more than one slide per concept, but you don't have to. That's up to you. Just make sure that while you're talking about a certain thing, that whatever visual the reviewer needs to be looking at while you're talking about it is on the slide. Because some of us are not going to be very familiar with what you guys are doing, which is a good thing. It gives you guys time to kind of pitch it to us. Next thing is design matrix. We've talked to you guys in the past about doing design matrices. I know a lot of you guys are working on those now. This slide doesn't have to be much other than a screenshot of a design matrix. But anything you guys have like that, some kind of decision table, design matrix thing, please put it here, and you can run through what you decided and how. You don't have to go fully in depth on every single rating of every single thing, but a high level overview of why you rated things the way they did overall, and then what the decision was would be great. Justification or calculation or calculation. This is kind of backing up the decisions made in the design matrix. So maybe you did some math on some spring or something, and that's further validating an idea that was chosen in the design matrix slide. That sort of thing should go here. Any research you've done, I underlined that. Research is great. Any external stuff you've done and looked up and got some takeaway from, please include that in the presentation. That's awesome. Prototyping. So a lot of you, I'm going to preface this. Most of you, if not all of you, have not actually prototyped. That's okay, because we haven't really provided you with the tools to do so. In an ideal world, we would have done that already. We would have already been working on that because we would have had access to machines and materials to do so. So if you don't really have much in terms of prototyping, totally get it. That's not your fault. So don't worry, don't freak out. If you do, please do include that information. And if you have some like prototype CAD, I guess, if you feel like it fits better over here, go ahead, put that here. So, but I just want to put a spot where if people do have that sort of thing, even if you did like research of something that was similar to something you're trying to do and it fits more of a prototypey thing, you have the ability to kind of flex around what you do with this slide. Or you can axe it completely. You might not have done any prototyping, and that's okay. But it is here if you do have something that fits. And then the last thing is next steps. So what are your team's plans for the spring? What are your next, what's the next thing that you're going to work on? Are you going to start doing some prototyping? Are you going to do some more research and calculations? Going to dive heavier into design? I'm just spitballing possible things. Just kind of explain what your next phase is. Questions. It's good to usually have like a thank you / question slide at the end. And then the last thing I'm going to ask for, so this is not a part of a normal PDR, but so that's why I put it at the end. But please give us any feedback you have about the track so far. As I mentioned all the way back to the beginning, we are not professionals at this. We're students just like you guys. And so navigating this intro stuff, which is totally revamped from past years, added on to the COVID restrictions that we weren't anticipating until later in the summer, and we kind of had to pivot our plans. So we welcome any feedback that you guys have, and we'd love to incorporate any changes that we can that would kind of improve the track. It's anything we can do, gauge the experience you guys are having. So yeah, if you guys have any thoughts, please let us know. There'll be other opportunities to provide feedback. I think we can do something anonymously too if there was any reason you guys felt that you didn't want us to know where it came from. Please know that even if you give negative feedback, like I'm not going to take it personally, but regardless, we'll provide other avenues for you guys to provide feedback as well. But if you guys want to add it on here, that'd be great. So again, as I mentioned, this presentation is about 10 minutes. So, fill it in accordingly. You don't have to go crazy in depth, but please do provide as many details as you can. And yeah, so that's the PDR. I just buzzed through 22 slides. So if you guys have any questions, thoughts, about what I just said, and I realize that you might have questions as time goes on and you're continuing to prepare for this, and that's totally fine. But if you have any questions right now, please let us know, and we can hopefully get that clarified for you.